Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Melvin Dothor, one of the principals and specialists here at our corporate office at Mimaki, USA. Joel, we also have Joel Thomas here, who's also going to assist with the demonstration today.
We also have a special guest today. Chuck Coons from 3A Composites is joining us today to talk about some of their products, since we're highlighting the new Mimaki hybrid printer. So a little bit later on, he will go through what 3A Composites can offer you as a customer.
Absolutely. So like Joel mentioned, we will be highlighting a lot of the applications and trainings on the UJ330H, which is our newest hybrid machine that we released about 2 or 3 months ago. If you do have any questions, be sure to utilize the chat function or the Q&A section. We do have a couple people here that are going to be answering those questions for you. We will have a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. So if you do want to stay for that, we will allow people like unmute their mics and then everybody could have like an open dialogue. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. So behind us, obviously we have our newest printer, the UJ330H. We have a lot of different applications here. Big thank you again to 3A Composites for providing us with a lot of media. We have a lot of their media, such as the black PVC that they have, which is their 3A Centra. We have their white one, which is obviously the white Centra. We also have their 3A foam core, which is a really, really good product that they have. Utilizing the 330H, we're able to print 2 pre-cut sheets. And I'm actually going to demonstrate that full process for you. But I just want to kind of show you some of the different prints that we've been toying around with here at the office, just to kind of test different materials, different layering processes, because it is a UV printer, and kind of just get like the ins and outs of the printer all together. So far, like I would definitely recommend this printer. You're getting a lot of the amazing quality that you're expecting from a Mimaki printer. And now we have a new format, which is going to be in a roll-to-roll fashion or utilizing the same printer for rigid substrates. I believe Chuck is in the chat. Chuck, I don't know if you want to go ahead and do your presentation on the medias.
Sure, I can do it at your convenience. You guys tell me when you want it, when you actually want me to do it. But anytime that's good for you.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and do it now, and then afterward, I'll go through like how to load the machine and that sort of thing.
Just a short 75-page multimedia presentation of rigid media. So, can everybody see? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So I'll start here. Again, my name is Chuck Penzi. I'm the Director of Marketing for the display business at 3A Composites. I put my email there. If everyone's interested, jot it down, share later. If there's any questions you have about any of our products, feel free to reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody who does. So a little bit about 3A Composites. We are an international company, part of 3A Composites Worldwide. We are managed under the Schweider Technology Company. Our U.S. headquarters is in Davidson, North Carolina, and our European headquarters is in Singen, Germany. We have 3 plants in the U.S. where we produce product. These products that we're going to talk about today. One in Benton, Kentucky, where we make our PVC, which is Centra, and our ACM, which is D-bond and Lucabond. In Statesville, North Carolina, we make our Gator products, and which are our Gator foam products, which are our high-performance foam boards. And in Glasgow, Kentucky, we make our foam core as well, and that's also where our consolidation center is. We do bring in some products from Europe. I'll talk about DISPA today. That comes in from Osnabrück, Germany. We sometimes bring in some other materials from our Ireland plant, where we bring in some clear sheet. And then in Sims, it's another place where we make our ACM, and we bring in special materials, ACM materials from there. So one of the things that's interesting about 3A is that people don't know the company name. They know our brands. We'll talk about our brands quite a bit. but we offer a full line of graphic display materials that cover a broad range of applications. Most of our competitors, most of the other folks in the space are generally single line manufacturers. They either make PVC or they make honeycomb board or they make foam boards. We have a full portfolio, everything from foam core, a paper-based foam board, to ACM material, which is our D-bond. We have a real, what I think is a great customer service group based out of our Statesville facility. Have access to experienced technical folks, and we sell only through distribution, and we have a national sales force with a professional sales group. We like to be easy to work with, and I imagine this is probably not so easy to see, but I wanted to kind of show 4 things that you can find on our website. So if you go into 3acomposites.com, you'll find, and go under graphic display, there'll be an opportunity to do a quote, find your. And so up here on the upper left, you can find, I think I did your sales representative here. So if you were in California and you click on this, you'll know that your sales rep is Bill Fox, great guy. You'll get his phone number and an email address. So if you have specific questions about materials, applications, or where you can buy, or if you have a technical issue, we have local support for that. For customer support, and again, we have a great customer service organization. It's the same deal. You click on California, you'll get directed to Jody Bandy, and you'll be able to reach out to her via phone or email. Same thing with distribution. If you go into, again, on the in the same part of the website, you can put in your zip code, the products you're looking to buy, do a search, and it will give you a detailed list of distribution in your area. And it will, for instance, if you choose foam core, it will only show distributors that have that and stock it. So stocking distributors will pop up there. It's a very useful function. And finally, on the product finder, this is just a little, it's not live here, but if you go in, you can search by material, by application, by color, and it will help you sort through our product portfolio what might be the right product for your project. Speaking of our products, we have, these are our core brands. And as we said, it goes everywhere from, kind of paper-faced and rigid paper boards, all the way up to very high-performance products like, ACM. D-bond is our brand for the graphic display. Alucobond is our architectural product. A lot of people are familiar with that. And if you've never seen it, Spaceship Earth at Epcot was the first North American installation of Alucobond. So I'll talk a little bit more about the array of products, but again, this is our full line. Looking at it a slightly different way, and this kind of helps with applications as well. We kind of start at the top, and this is in a lot of ways kind of a progression from inexpensive and short term to higher performance products for long term applications. So general purpose foam boards, foam core falls in there. We have 100% paper boards. And these are part of an initiative we started a couple of years ago that we're calling Clear Horizon. The intention here is to produce or introduce more 100% recyclable paper boards, high performance foam boards. So SmartX is actually we're in the middle of transitioning out of SmartX, but Gator Foam and GP Apex are used in higher performance applications. PVC boards, Sintra XT. And the way to think about this is that if you're looking for recyclable product, there's 4 of the brands that does that. For kind of general promotional signage and displays, short term, they would be, again, foam core, Discbond, Polar. For higher performance applications, it's kind of the balance of the suite here. And then products like Sintra, D-bond, and Lumex find themselves in applications different from graphic display, kind of specialty and manufacturing type applications. Also available, and again, I don't expect anybody to see this, but choosing the right board for a project, it comes down to kind of two dimensions. The first one is what application are you going to use it? And again, I don't think anyone can read this, but across the top here it says POP display, exhibits and fixtures, framing, interior signage, exterior signage, structural signage, interior design, packaging, and I can't read that one. Oh, glazing, and then manufacturing and assembly. So this is a list of all our 25 brand positions and where they fit in each one of these applications. And again, you can see this on our website. Again, it's a quick, easy, well, it can get easy to go through and kind of sort through what you want. So the first thing is, what application are you going to use them in? And then what are you going to do to it? So again, we have what we kind of broadly call as fabrication. And again, the applications across the top for each of these products are, we have mounting, repositioning vinyl, digital print, screen printing, painting, knife cut, saw cut, routing, die cut, and punching, embossing, forming curves, and creasing. So when you're envisioning a project, these are helpful checklists to kind of go through. So one of the things that when Joel and I were talking about what we talk about today is, well, how do you choose? And these are kind of key questions to ask. You know, where will the sign be used, inside or outside? What kind of environment will it be in? Window displays can be pretty taxing on the product. So knowing those types, where it's going to be, is it going to be exposed to moisture? How long are you going to use it? That's kind of should be the first question. Are you going to, you're all going to be printing direct with your new printer. And then how important is the edge profile? We have some options there. And again, we usually do our product training in about a 2 to 3 hour session. I'm trying to do a quick flyover for everybody today. So, you know, if you think about an example here, like if you were doing a shelf display or a hanging sign or even a standee for REI, you'd say, well, gee, I probably want something that's pretty sustainable. It's for short-term promotion, so it's good for 3 or 4 months. I want it to be, you know, print really well and carry the brand really well. And for that type of application, I would pick something like this. So I'm starting here. I'm really going to be featuring only 3 of our products today, and we can save all the others for another time, or you can reach out to me with any questions about that. So DISPA is 100% product. This is the one that we bring in from Osnabrück, Germany. It's completely unique. It's not corrugated. It's not fluted in any way. It has a very unique structure, which gives it an exceptionally flat performance, very rigid performance, very stable board. We've just recently, over the past year, introduced a 5mm version of it. Originally, we were 3.8mm, so 5mm will be a 100% drop-in for a foam board. So if you're looking for a sustainable material that you would use where normally you would use foam core, this does the product. And again, it's made from so we use the same style double clay coated facers for this. Prints exceptionally well, bright white, very smooth. We do have we don't stock 60 inches wide. We can make it 60 inches wide. It cuts and fabricates well. You can actually, there's a wheel that Zund developed that allows you to crease it for multi-dimensional displays. You kind of see it, one like it here down in the corner. It's FSC certified and 100% recyclable. And again, this would be used again for typically shorter term applications. That's 3 to 6 months. So it's promotional signage. Again, it hangs very well. It's relatively light. It finds its way in the trade shows and other exhibits. There's this kind of cool one done that has a competitor's name on it. We can just skip that. But that was done over in Europe. Here, and I hope it turns up here, the structure of the board is important. As I said, it's not corrugated. It's essentially a 5-layer board, and the inner layers are made of these interlocking dimples. And what that gives is a very flat surface. There's no read-through of any type of corrugation or anything underneath. And it also has a very unique attribute benefit, is that there's no grain to this board. So it's the same strength and the same characteristics whether you go across the board or along the board. And that's a pretty remarkable thing in this space, because usually we have to worry about grain. So DISPA, great product. Again, we continue to get more momentum in the market for people who want a sustainable board that is cost effective and is a drop-in for foam core. Foam core, and this is the original foam board. I should have mentioned that. We invented the foam board back in 1961 or something like that. It's been around forever. We actually make it differently than anybody else makes foam. We have this huge machine in our Glasgow plant to make it. We have multiple sub-brands of foam core. So our traditional foam core has is actually embossable, whereas the foam core with Encore technology uses a recovery foam. So it depends on what you want the edge to look for. Foundation is used in kind of for mounting and for picture framing. Single step and quick step have an adhesive already applied, either pressure sensitive or heat activated. We have a paper canvas print facer, which looks great, prints really well. And then jet mount is a higher density, more rigid foam core board. And I should also say, I'm giving a sneak peek for everybody on the call today. We recently completed a major upgrade to our manufacturing equipment, and we've changed the foam formulation for foam core. So the new foam core, which we're going to start announcing very briefly, is more rigid, cuts better, and is more stable than prior foam boards. So it's a pretty exciting time. So whoops.
Yeah,
okay.
we're back. So
Okay.
I just wanted to point out, we have obviously great application here for foam board. We have a little dragon here, little stand-up displays. The one thing I wanted to point out about the DISPA display is that this entire display was done out of one sheet of DISPA. So the ROI on that is pretty incredible when you take everything into account. The Mimaki equipment is capable of doing so many different things. That's one reason why we invited Chuck here and why we wanted to highlight our new hybrid printer. But we do also want to, obviously you all joined here to jump into RasterLink. So we wanted to go ahead and start covering some of that. So
okay, great. And
we appreciate it very much, Chuck.
Yeah, that's a great example right there.
Yeah.
And it shows, two-sided printing for that application. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
So thank you everybody for waiting. My name is Melvin Dother. I'll be conducting the portion of the RasterLink training, as I mentioned earlier. I know everybody's been eagerly waiting to see what more Mimaki has in store. So to just kind of cover a lot of the basics, I do want to go over basically a lot of the different features that we have in RasterLink. A lot of these are pretty cut and dry. I'll go over a couple of the basic ones. Like, for instance, we have like our crop tool where you're able to crop inside of RasterLink, which is our RIP software. We have print conditions where you're going to basically be able to manipulate your different profiles that you have, input profiles. We can arrange multiple files together, so that way, if you have multiple different artworks, you'll be able to nest both of those artworks or multiple different artworks together, and that way they'll all print with one job. Print group will be utilized more for like nesting on a full sheet. So instead of nesting on, say, like a roll-to-roll machine where you just have the width and it's like an infinite length, The print group is be utilized more for like rigid substrates. That way you can nest it on there. And then the properties tab is going to be your overall outlook on the whole thing. Just so everybody's aware, we will be covering in this webinar, we'll be covering the rigid media substrate, which is going to be specific to the UJ330H hybrid. It's a pretty cool new feature that allows you to print to pre-cut substrate. So I'll kind of walk through that whole process on how that looks and how really easy it is. And then we'll also be going over variable edit as well as we'll touching on a little bit of like color replacement and how you can utilize RasterLink to kind of perfect your color using color libraries and Pantones and that sort of thing. So the first thing I just want to show this graphic just so everybody can kind of get a full look on kind of what RasterLink is and a lot of the features that it offers. If you have a UV printer, whether it's UV roll to roll or one of the flatbeds, so say like the JFX series or the UJS series, you're also able to do layering with special colors such as white and clear or primer. And we'll kind of touch on a little bit of that. I have a couple files that I'm going to just showcase and I'll kind of show you how I set it up. But we'll just kind of leave it to keep it sweet and concise. So next, I'm going to actually share RasterLink so that way everybody can see. So within RasterLink 7, just to kind of go over what you're looking at right now, on the top left, you're going to have your ink consumption. So whatever, as long as your printer is plugged into RasterLink, you're going to be able to see the current ink levels on the machine based off of the chips that's connected to the machine. You'll be able to see the size of the media that you have in there. The bottom here, you have your job queue. So whenever you're ripping a file, whenever you're printing a file, it'll process through this queue. And you'll be able to see like the percentage on how far it's done and that sort of thing. In the middle here, you have your job list. So any files that you open up within RasterLink, it'll pre-rip the file so that way it shows up in the job queue. And then you can do any of the manipulations you need to do, such as what resolution you want to print at. You have nesting features such as general print on how many quantities I want up, rotation, reverse, that sort of thing. And you can also do layering, which you can kind of see some of these images have brackets on it. You can do layering as well as arranging, which I'm going to kind of demonstrate both of those and how to actually do them. And then on the right here, you can see like an overview of the print file. So this is kind of like you've already printed the file and you're not really sure how it was printed. This is generally how I look at it, just to kind of get a one view fits all on everything. You can also see your ink consumption once your file's ripped. So you can kind of notice here, I have an ink consumption for this file. I actually have it nested up 2 images with a layer of clear gloss on top of it. And you can see the CMYK values and the clear values, which give me a total of 5.498 cc's used for that job. And you can see the file size up here, which is 18 by 24. So based off of that, you can kind of see, like, gauge how much ink you're utilizing, even without actually running the file. The next one I want to go over, it will be the arrangement. So I already have a file pre-set up, but I'm going to kind of demonstrate how I got to this portion to print it. So the first thing, actually, I need to show you how to nest it up on a printer. So the first thing we're going to do is do the camera, and I will show you guys how you would set up the UJ330H and load material for the rigid substrate. So I guess we'll start towards the back. So on the control panel, I'm just waiting for this ink cleaning to finish. On the control panel, there is an option for media. Once it finishes, please wait, of course. I'll be able to do what's called a media set. And with the media set, the machine will be prepared for me to load media. So I'm just going to execute media reset, hit OK, and now I have the option here for start media set. You see there's a left arrow there, so I'm just going to hit the left arrow. And now it's going to ask me what media profile do I want to select. On the control panel, you can have up to 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the temporary will be 9 different media profiles. What these basically save is going to be, is it a rigid or a roller roll substrate? And then what are the different print conditions that I want to print with? So like you'll have alignments for your bidirectionals, you'll have alignments for your feed comp, you'll have your head height, your head gap, all that information is going to be saved within this media profile. And you can have up to 8 plus the temporary, which the temporary doesn't really save anything. Currently, we have 9 different roller-roll medias. I'm sorry, 5 different 9 roller-roll medias, and then we have 3 of the rigid ones. I'm actually going to utilize this unregistered one just so that way we can all see the process of how you would create one. So to start off with, they're going to come up with unregistered. You're just going to click the unregistered one, and it's going to ask you for a material type. I am actually going to be printing to the 3A PVC. So I'm actually going to just select PVC. I know it says vinyl here, but PVC, composite PVC, as well as the vinyls are going to be basically made out of the same material. And for printing wise, we are UV, so the ink goes on top of the material. So it's not going to be too much of a difference as far as print quality goes. Now I'm going to hit that. The next thing it's going to ask me is my, I am so sorry. I stepped too far. There's actually another page here that says rigid media or clear rigid media. Because this is a rigid media, I actually need to select rigid because there's a different, the way it reads the media. It reads the front edge and the right edge. And in order for it to know that, you have to select either rigid or clear rigid. But this is a white material, so it's not clear, so I'm just going to select rigid for this. Next thing it's going to ask me is what my head gap is and what the thickness of the material is going to be. The head gap is generally going to be anywhere between 1.5 to 2 millimeters. That is like our sweet spot when we're printing to, I would say, probably like 95% of Mimaki products. So generally, we always keep it at 1.5. If your material has a lot of variance on the surface of the material, say like the corners dinged up or that sort of thing, or it's an uneven flat surface, you can always up it to about 2 millimeters. You can go as high as, I believe, 3 millimeters. Yeah, 3 millimeters. But just know that the higher you go, the less accurate the drops are to hit, like for fine type and things like that. So if you want a really, really nice quality print, I would suggest always start at the 1.5 and then up it as need be. As far as the thickness goes, say for instance, you don't know what the thickness of your material is, that's perfectly okay. The machine also has the ability to read media thickness. So for in this case, I know that this material is 3 millimeters, but I'm not actually going to put 3 millimeters in there. I'll just put 0.5 just so we can kind of see what that process looks like. Then I'll hit OK. The next thing it's going to ask me is how does it want to register the material? You can register it automatically. There is a new RGB sensor in this machine that allows you to basically read color substrates as well as white substrates. And what it does, like I said, reads the right edge, it reads the left edge as well as the front of the material. So within that, I'm going to just select auto. I could do it manually by moving the light in the right spot, but what's the fun in that? We'll do automatic. And the next thing you have is your vacuum strength. Because this is a hybrid roller roll, we do want to show, or we want to be able to select if we want a weak vacuum or we want a strong vacuum. And because of that, usually standard is generally okay. If you have a material that has a lot of warp to it, you can up it to strong if need be. Rear clamp roller, this is going to be, so instead of a pinch roller that's feeding the material forward, you have the belt. So the rear clamp roller is going to be generally always activated. So you just generally hit OK. And the next thing is going to be your media length. Like I said, it reads the front edge and the left and right, but it doesn't necessarily read the back of it. So whenever you are printing on rigid media, you want to make sure that you are putting in the length of the material. So that way in RasterLink talks to the printer. It'll be able to tell you exactly, it'll actually give you a full layout on how to lay out your file. So in this case, I'm actually going to be printing to sheets that are 16 by 20 and 20 inches long is 508 millimeters. And I know that because I have a handy dandy Google right here next to me. I'm just going to lower this to 508. And if you're not comfortable with metric system, you can actually change just to inches as well. So just be aware, like you don't have to memorize or always convert if you're not comfortable with metric. And the next thing, obviously the last thing is going to be just name your media profile. So in this case, I'm just going to put 3A rigid. Of course, the numbers are the very end. There we go, 3A. And we'll just put rigid. Double check my spelling. Then we'll hit OK. we'll hit enter. And then it's making sure, is that okay? I'll hit okay. And the next thing we're going to do is optimize the setting. What this does is based off of the media type that you selected. There's a couple of different changes that it'll make to how the vacuum's pulling it, what the bidirectional and feed comp should be, off the control panel as a whole. And I'm just gonna don't do it for right now because I also have another profile that has all those alignments on there. But with this new DAS2 system, the DAS2 system, which is the RGB sensor, basically you're able to print a chart. It's like a small little chart. Do we have any of them over there? I don't think we do. But basically it's like a small little chart, maybe like 8 inches by 2 inches. And what it does is that once it prints that chart, it reads it and it does its own alignment. So that way you don't have to do any of the alignments yourself. The machine will do it for you. So I'm not going to execute that because I don't want to waste you guys' time just watching it print and reading it when I already have those settings set for it. I'm going to hit none. And then now it's going to give you the full overview. This is what the media was. This is what your thickness is. Do I want to hit start? I'll go ahead and hit start for this. And now we're going to switch towards the back camera. And then over here, so now I have, I guess I don't really need this one. Now I have my 2 sheet of 3/8 sensor that I have. So the key thing is going to be, you see these, can they see the arrows? Yeah, there's these little arrows towards the middle or towards the back of the machine. What you want to do is you want to basically nest the material as close as possible to the middle. So you can see these are 2 16 by 20 sheets. And there is a bar that drops down in front of the printer. So I just nest these against the bar. Just for confidence in the machine, I'm actually going to nest them in uneven. And you're actually going to see why. So when I press OK on the control panel, it's actually going to feed the media into that bar. And the benefit of that is making sure the front edge is straight because we want to make sure that we're getting a true front edge when it reads it, and that way it doesn't have any misalignments when it's actually printing. So now that the material is actually loaded, on the control panel, it's telling me I can open the front cover and adjust my power lock rollers. The power lock rollers are going to be this portion right here in front of the machine. We are at the corporate office, so we actually kind of rig our machines. That way you can have the front cover open at all times. Just know that this will be the only time that really you'll be able to open the front cover to adjust these power rollers. Basically, there are 2 magnetic E-stops on the machine that if you open it, just like a lot of the other roll printers, if you open it while it's printing or not in the optimal print mode, what happens is it'll error out to print. And you'll have to basically like restart the parameters of the printer so it can home itself back to a printable state. But right now, the power locking rollers, I'll basically just slide them into place. And the key thing you want to do is just have them on top of the media. I'm going to just utilize a couple of them here. I don't need to utilize all of them. 3 will be more than enough here. And the other thing I want to do is just engage them. So there's a great little drop lever here, and I'm just going to push it down and it pops it into place. I'll just engage all 3 of those and we're good to go. Next, I'll hit enter. The next question it asked me is, do I want to perform a media thickness? So I mentioned before in the beginning, I know what the media thickness is, but just to show you guys, I'm just going to hit execute. And what it's going to do is the printer is going to lower the belt, and then the carriage is going to go in front of the belt or in front of the material towards the middle. This is why we're loading it in the middle. And basically, there's a pin that drops. Of course, this happens right now. I will redo it again. Or one more time. There's a pin that drops on top of the material, and what happens there is based off of the resistance that it fills on the pin, it will give you a media thickness based off of where the table's at. Let's try this one more time. Let me back it up and go through the process one more time. we go. Sorry about that. Now the material is feeding through, and I'm just going to basically just hit no for everything because I've already done this. All right, so media thickness, I'll hit execute. And try one more thing. Let's try this one. So now I'm going to read the media again. All right. And then based off of it reading the material, it's actually going to provide me with what the media thickness was, which in this case is 3.1, which is a little bit over 3 millimeters, but makes sense. So I'm just going to hit complete. And now it's going to tell me what my print width is. So I know by conversion, the 406 is going to be the 32 inches because we have two 16 by 20s next to each other. So what it does is it reads the full size of the like loaded material. That's why we're butting them up next to each other. So that's going to be the 406. And then you're going to notice the printable is 10 millimeters less. The reason for that is we want to prevent printing onto the belt. And so whenever you're printing one-up sheets like this or multiple pre-cut sheets like this, it actually crops in the artwork by 5 millimeters. If you do want to have bleed fully through your print, you can utilize jig print, which I'll show that a little bit in a minute. But just for this purpose, I want to be able to explain why the printable is less than what it actually read there, which is because it's cropping in 5 millimeters on the left side and the right side would get you to 10 millimeters total. I'm going to remeet the media just so that way y'all can see what it looks like. And what it does, like I said, is it reads the front edge of the media to know where to align the front edge of the print. And then it reads the left and the right side of the media. That way it knows where it's nested actually on the bed. All right, and then it gives me what the X and Y dimensions are that it had on there. And then the next thing it's going to tell me is going to be the media count. So for the media count, I'm just going to put 2. There we go. For the media count, I'm just going to change it from 1 to 2 because I have 2 boards on there. You can have up to 7 sheets. So that equates to about 8 inches in width if you want to utilize the full width of the bed. But we're going to do just 2 because that's what I have loaded. I'm going to hit enter. And the reason for that, the reason why you have to select 2 is going to be in RasterLink. So when I get over there, I'm going to show you, explain why. The last thing I got to do, if you notice, it only read the width of the material, but it didn't read the length. You actually have to input the length separately. So under menu, I'm just going to go to menu, media, go down to media information. And then there's going to be an option for, you can see the media type that we did in the beginning. You can see the detect type, which if I wanted to redetect like the width of it, I can do that here. I can have the count here. I could adjust that if I needed to, and the length. The length I'm actually going to put on here, the width or the length, I'm sorry, of 20 inches is 508. I'm actually going to put that. Thought I put that in the beginning. And then you can see the printable is going to be 498. So it's again 10 millimeters less. So now that that's in there, we're going to swap over to RasterLink, you can see I have my width and my length here. So now we're going to swap over to RasterLink, and I will show you why everything that we have there works. So now that we're in RasterLink, I have two files here that I'm going to be printing. I'll just kind of show you here. This graphic is going to be printing on there, as well as this graphic here. And as you notice, like if I bring them into general print, it just shows you the full width of the material, which isn't really beneficial for what we're doing. First thing I want to do is nest both of the images together. So I'm going to select both of the images. Like I said, there are 2-layer images, one with color and clear on top and the other one with color and clear on top. So I'm going to select the arrangement tool. And with the arrangement tool, generally, if you're using general print, you could nest it with margin. So like if I wanted to, I could nest this with a 1-inch margin. I could hit arrange, go to general print. Just close your eyes on that one for a second. Go to general print, and you can see that now I have 2 images nested in general print. And then I would be able to, if I was printing to like a parent sheet, I'd be able to nest as many as I want up there. I could put the 1-inch spacing. Oh, it is 1-inch spacing. I see it right there. 1-inch spacing between the two. I can move multiple copies for each one if I wanted to. Yeah, it's nesting in this selection. And then you also have the option to do different nesting options. I could nest them sequentially, no rotation, minimize, that sort of thing. But in this case, we're not using general print. I want to make sure that my files print exactly where the boards are at. So what we did was we released another option or feature called rigid media placement. Like I said, this is specific to the hybrid machines. And just like any of our nesting tools, actually, I'm going to briefly go over those. So this is considered a nesting tool. General print is going to be the one that you utilize, like the name says, generally. But we also have nesting tools such as jig print, the rigid media substrate print. We also have tiling and variable edit technically is a nesting tool, but all of those tools, basically when you utilize them or want to activate them, you have to hit the checkbox at the top right here. Once you select that, you'll notice that general print disappeared. That's because you can only use one nesting tool at a time, which makes sense. So in this case, you can see now I have 2 sheets here. The reason why you're seeing 2 sheets is because RasterLink and the printer UJ330H actually talk to each other. So it knows how wide the material was that it read, how long it was because I put that number in, as well as how many pieces there were because I said 2. And you can see right now we see 2 copies here. I would actually lower these all to 1. That way we can see 1 individual copy for each one. And I will zoom in. You'll also notice this gray area in the middle. That's that 5mm border that I was telling you around the print. And again, the reason for that is we don't want to be printing on the belt because we want to make sure that the printer lasts a very, very long time, and clogging your vacuum isn't the best way to make sure your printer is lasting a long time. Through here with the rigid media editing, you can do a couple different things, really basic. You can scale your image. I could scale this. I've already scaled this image, but I could choose it to actual size, which was much larger than this. But you can see right now, actually, let's use the other one. The other one might nest a little better. That way you can see the color around it. What it'll end up doing is it'll actually crop it to the printable area. So even though this falls all the way outside of the image, the software is smart enough to know that this is my printable area and this is all it's going to print. So it's only going to print what's in the middle area here. And the same thing for this one. If I made it larger than it, it'll actually crop it to the printable size that you see here. But we do actually have 2 features here, the jig fit. What jig fit does is it fits it the best way it can to the media. I actually went a little bit further and made it 20. That way I didn't have any white space on the bottom. And that way it fit perfectly fine on there. Like I said, if it goes over the edge, that's perfectly okay. It'll actually crop it to the printable area. So I have my 2 images, and then you also have layout. So say my image was actually smaller. In this case, I could just make it 50. Say my image was actually smaller. I could control where on the sheet the image is placed. And in this case, I want it towards the top. So, and I'll make this 20, and we're good to go. The other thing I want to talk about is going to be the quality tab. So once you have everything nested, the next thing you're going to do is make sure that your quality tab is good. This is going to directly affect how the printer is printing, if it's printing fast, slow. And then also there's a couple of color matching stuff. I'm not going to get too far into that because Joel's going to cover that portion after we go over the printing side of it. So on this printer, we have a couple different resolutions we can select. We have a couple different medias that we can select as well. So in this case, I'm just going to be printing 1200 by 1200 because I have clear gloss, and clear gloss either needs to be cured at 12 by 12 or 12 by 18, or sorry, 1200 by 18, which is going to be specific again for this printer, or the UCJV 330. So I'm just going to do 12 by 12, and it's going to be at 16 passes. Again, this is a bi-directional printer, so it's going to be printing in the left direction as well as the right direction. From there, I can execute the job. So on the right here, you're going to have the go button, and the go button is basically going to be how do I send that job to the printer? There's two important things about this. The first thing is going to be these options. Say I didn't already rip the file, I could actually hit start right here for ink consumption. And I actually have a duplicate version right here, so I can kind of just show you what ends up happening. You'll get your ink results here. If you see, if I click on this one, the ink results aren't there. That's because I haven't ripped the file, so it doesn't actually know what's going to be printing yet. And then to go over these options, if you have a print and cut model, I actually have one right here. So this is, I actually just swapped to a UCJV 330. So on the bottom left here, you can have up to 4 different printers on one RasterLink. And the benefit of that is, say you want just one rip station and it controls all of your printers. Instead of having 4 separate RasterLink computers, you can have just one, as long as they're all either networked to the computer or close enough that you can have a USB run to them. But I have a UCJV, and the reason I'm showing this is I want to show you what the print and cut looks like. I just want to show a cut file really quickly, just so I can kind of go over those options. So if you have a print and cut model, that's any model that has a C in the name, that signifies that the machine can do a cut. You'll have the option for your execution order. And the execution order, you can do print and cut. What happens is it'll print the whole job, and then it'll immediately cut it right after without any input for the user. This is really, really good for decals, stickers, basically anything that does need to be immediately laminated after. If you do have lamination in the process of your print and cut job, what you can do is print only first. So you would just select print. I would send the job, and then I would go laminate it or do whatever finishing process I need to do, and then come back and cut it out. And that would be the process for a print and cut. It's, like I said, it's really big for lamination, but if you don't have lamination, most people will just do the print and cut. That way you don't have to have any input from you guys. So I do just want to show that because under the UJ330H doesn't have the cutting capability. So you can see right here, it's grayed out. So I just wanted to show that. The next options are going to be these 4 bubbles here. This is going to be how it's actually going to rip the job. So immediate print, my biggest stance on immediate print is what happens is it rips the file, and while it's actually ripping the file, it prints it. Unless your computer processor or RAM on your computer is really, really good, and it can keep up with the rip data being sent to the printer, that's perfectly fine. If at any point your printer stalls for the ripping portion, like so say like your computer can't rip it faster than it's printing, what happens is it stalls the printer and you lose the print. So to avoid people doing that, I always recommend that you do rip and print. Rip, what it does exactly what it says. It rips the whole file first, and then right after the whole thing is ripped, it immediately prints it right after. That's probably the most common way to do it. If you have files that are taking, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to rip and you need to do it like immediately, you could utilize the immediate print function. Just understand the pros and cons of, printing with immediate print. You could also, if you don't want to, roll a dice on your computer keeping up with it, you can just rip it only. So say it's the end of the day, like today, on a hot Thursday afternoon, right before 4th of July. I could rip my file only, and then say the file was a big mural and it took 30 minutes to rip it. I could rip it only, and then Monday morning, I'd be able to come in and immediately print it right after. The other thing you'd be able to do is going to be print only. So when you come in that Monday morning, you would just rip print only. So for instance, like this file that I have right here that I've already ripped, I'd be able to submit that right now as a print only job, and it'll print it without actually ripping it. which is my actual goal for today is. The other two things that I want to mention, and this is probably the biggest thing that customers accidentally click and they don't realize they click, is going to be delete rip data after print, which that one isn't too bad. That just means that it's going to re-rip your job every time you send it. But the biggest one that I get is going to be delete job after print. If you're ever sending jobs and it just feels like every time you send a job is deleting it, this is where that option is, delete print or delete job after print. And like I said, it's really easy to accidentally click and not know that you clicked it because most people don't utilize that. But that's where that function is. Couple other things I just wanted to share just as like quality of life that I get a lot of times when I do trainings or customers ask about. Underneath your environment settings, you have an options tab. And under this options tab, there's a lot of different settings that you can change for the better. For instance, underneath the display, I believe it's display, yeah. Underneath display, you're able to turn on display print progress. So on the top left here, there's going to be another tab here for print progress. And what it shows is it's really more beneficial for like roll-to-roll prints. If you're doing like tiling where you can't actually see what the full graphic looks like, whatever file is currently printing, it'll show the full file and like where it's at on that job by like highlighting that portion. So that's pretty beneficial. You also have the option for a search function. And with that search function, it shows up above the job list right here. So I'd be able to type in, I don't know, art. And then what'll happen is any of the jobs that have art right here will actually populate by just filtering out just the job names that have art, which is really, really cool. The last thing I wanted to show is going to be, gotta remember where it is. Oh, right here. The number of jobs that can be registered. By default, the default number is going to be 200. I would say probably like 6 months to a year ago, we've actually increased that to be 1,000. Not that many. Not that many either, but 1,000. So you could actually go up to 1,000. And all that does is basically, it's, as long as your hard drive can hold that many files, you can actually increase it to there. The reason for the 200 limit was to not overburden your computer and using up all your driver space on your computer. But now you can, if you have the space for it, you can actually increase that number. So this is a really, really big one. I know a lot of customers, they'll have like 100 jobs a day and constantly having to go in there and delete them over and over. This helps alleviate that process. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to run that job. And while we're running that job, Joel's going to go over, I believe,
variable data.
Variable data. Perfect. You just hit print.
And we'll just change this camera here so that you can see the print while we're going through this. I don't think that window is going to cover anything up that is important. So we have a job here. This is happens to be a business card job. And what I want to do is apply variable data to it. So here you can see this is basically the end result. So I will go back out and bring in a fresh one. But this is what our goal is, to be able to take a single file and apply variable data to that file. Give me 1 second while I hit this one. It's going to take just a second to come in. I thought I had a blank one loaded in here, but in all the excitement today, it must have got deleted. So here we have our blank file. And if I go into the variable data here, you can see there's nothing really here. As Melvin mentioned, you have to enable the feature. And then you need to bring in a CSV file, which was going to be out of Excel. One thing that is important to note is the CSV file needs to be saved as CSV UTF-8. It's just a certain type of file format. it is automatically defaulting to the previous job that I had in here. So if I go ahead and delete that, I was hoping it would let me, just so I could show you how it's all set up. Let me bring in a different job. Apologies, I did go through this earlier and it didn't jump the gun on me like that. I can still go through it if it happens again. I just wanted to start fresh so that you can see the process. Make it do it again. It does. So essentially, I made a variable data template over here, and it is defaulting to that when I bring in my data. The way you get the rows of data, so this is your Excel file, is when you click on the row, you have the ability to drop a box in over here, or you can actually type in dimensions. So if I wanted this box to be smaller, I could just change the size of it. And then you can actually move the placement of it as well. So you can have the file in the upper right or any of these other positions if you wanted it centered on top of each other. I will be completely honest, it's not the most intuitive feature, so sometimes it takes a little playing around to get the type to land where you want. What some people do is actually create text boxes in Illustrator and then bring that in here and align things to the text boxes. Sometimes when you type in the actual positions of the boxes in here, like if I were to actually move it around and line things up, it might not print the way that it looks. So it's important to get all of your numbers where you want them to begin with. Another thing that you can do, even if you didn't want to go through the process of business cards or having an actual Excel file that you're pulling data from, you could have a design, say you're doing like room numbers or something like that for a hotel. You can actually come in here and pull up sequential numbering. And you can enter your start value, the increment value. So say you want only even numbered rooms, and then your end value. Number of digits. So if for some reason, say you're going to 1,000 numbers and you're starting at 100, you want zeros in front. So you could, that's going to make it the overall digits. And then the nice thing is you could actually come in here and type room space as your prefix and say, okay. And now we have another row over here of all of that data. So if this were like a hotel door knocker area and you had the hotel logo over here, now we have this room number here. And this is what I was explaining earlier. If you didn't already have a variable data jig set up, once you pick the column and you come over here, you can see the little line and you can just draw a box. And now it is going to put whatever is in that column into that box. We can come over here and we can change the font. We can change the font size. We can change the color. So say we wanted it to be red instead of black. It's going to change that. You can also do things like drop shadows, some of these features down here to any of your type. So there's a lot of things you can do in here to the actual variable type. One thing that was recently added in RasterLink 7-4.0 was the ability to apply variable print data to monocolor replace. which essentially allows you to do variable data with white ink. Previously, you were not able to do that. Then the nice thing about this is we have applied all of our Excel sheet here. So now if we actually go over to Jig Print and turn that on, and I have a Jig Print to print my business cards, you can see it is actually populating that entire file into this jig. RasterLink does not preview the variable data, but when it prints, the variable data is in there. So this is a really simple way to go through the process of having just a base file and then applying variable data to it through Excel. If we wanted to change the format of this, it's all under the jig definition. So I have it set up for my master jig, which is 11 rows, 11 columns by 7 rows. But I can come in here and I can say I only want 10 rows and for 10 columns and 2 rows. And now it's going to auto-populate that in here. You can see that no longer accounts for the number that was in the variable data. Down here, you'll see this is actually sheet 1 of 2. If I scroll over, you'll see there are 2 additional files in that variable data format. So it is actually going to print as a second sheet. So that is just a quick run through of variable data, as well as how it applies into jig print. You can also come in here. I believe this was added in 4.0 as well. You can actually add rows and columns if you wanted to. Say you left someone out and you didn't want to have to go all the way back to Excel. You could add an additional row, and then you could type in that data. The other thing that I wanted to go over today, because we get a lot of questions on this, is working with color. Obviously, everyone knows the quality tab. But other than picking a profile, a lot of this is out of the realm of knowledge for a lot of people. Over here on the right-hand side, you have color matching, and you have some drop-downs. RasterLink comes with a couple presets. So like the Mimaki expand color. It has some presets down here that it's going to use. But say you wanted to make your own. You can actually just come in here and type in a name and hit plus. And now you have the ability to change these methodologies over here. I am going to share my screen real quick. So that I can explain rendering intents. So there are a lot of colors that are available, especially when you're designing in RGB, that will display on your screen, and you might get frustrated as to why they're not printing on your CMYK printer. Rendering intents is the background information that tells RasterLink how to map colors that are not achievable. So here's an example of a 3D model of a color space. So you can see that this particular profile has a lot of nice, brilliant colors, but there's that little red dot that's hanging out over to the right. That's a PMS color that no matter what you do is not going to be printable within this color profile. So we need to let RasterLink know how to print this data in relationship to what the printer can actually do. So we are going to map that data into the color gamut of the printer, which is basically your ICC profile. There are several methodologies for doing this. There is colorimetric, there's relative and absolute, as well as, so colorimetric is good for spot colors and illustrations where color is critical in that if a color is achievable, you want it to print properly. There are some of these methodologies where all of the color moves slightly, even if it is achievable without that movement. Colorimetric is going to leave colors that can be printed alone, so it's good for spot colors, as I mentioned. The only real difference between relative and absolute is one takes in the white point of the media. That's getting more advanced color management. So generally, relative colorimetric is what is used for these situations. Saturation is going to be if you just want a really rich, vibrant color, and color accuracy is not important. So say you're doing a supermarket sign and it's a sale and you just have words and you need deep, rich colors. Saturation would work for that. And then perceptual is good for images and it's good for smooth gradations. But perceptual is also less accurate in that it moves all of the colors. So even if you have a color that is perfectly capable of being printed within the color gamut, if there's another color in that file that cannot be printed in that color gamut, like that red dot, everything is going to move within the print. So just to give you another illustration, this is relative colorimetric. So you can see dots 1, 2, 3 are achievable. They're within the bounds of the color gamut and will print as expected. 4, 5, and 6 are all going to move to the limit of the color gamut. So if you can imagine this were a gradation within your print, it's going to be a nice smooth gradation for 1 through 3, and then there's going to be a hard stop 4, 5, 6, and then it's just going to be solid after that hard stop because everything is mapped to the same exact spot. This can lead to blown out highlights and dark shadows disappearing on your photographs. And again, gradations will have a hard line transition when this is selected. Absolute colorimetric, as I mentioned, it's the same. It's just going to, it will slightly shift the 1, 2, 3 just to compensate for the white point of the media. With the saturation rendering intent, you can see 1, 2, and 3 move a little bit to the outside, which is the darker colors. And 4, 5, and 6 are all going to move into the boundaries of the gamut, but also it's going to leave you a hard line. This is less accurate overall, obviously, because it is moving all of the colors. And as I mentioned, it's good for illustrations. Perceptual is going to move all of the colors in proportion to one another. This is going to be great for gradations. This is going to be really good for photographs. It is going to be slightly less accurate for spot colors because all of the colors are moving. Just keep in mind they do move proportionate to the farthest color out of gamut. So 6 might move a really big distance to get within the gamut, but 1, 2, and 3 might just be a slight shift. It's going to be like a logarithmic progression of scaling. This will improve some facial tones and highlights. It's less likely to get blown out because everything's moving. And obviously, you're going to have your smooth gradations. We get a lot of questions about grays not printing gray. They print either a green tone, a cyan tone, a magenta tone. You can create a gray balanced rendering intent. Actually, I think it's one of the defaults within that comes with RasterLink. The thing to keep in mind is when you are using that gray balance rendering intent, it does not use the IC color correction. So if you design something that's 100% black and you pick gray balance, it is going to print 100% black. If you want 100% yellow, it's going to print 100% yellow. It's not going to manage that color and add some of those other colors into the image. But keep in mind, it's also not going to try and match your Pantone colors. It's not going to try and color correct any placed images. So this is kind of like hitting the issue with a hammer instead of caressing your blacks to print gray the way they are supposed to. This is also a way, obviously, to sometimes when the color profile is applied, you might get like some magenta dots in your yellow. That's not always something that you want either, and this will take care of it. This does use the ink limits within the profile. So all of our inks have a lot more pigment in them than might need to be used for any particular print. So we limit those inks as part of the profiling process. So you're not going to get an oversaturated image where on a cell phone printer your black is actually dripping off the sheet. Because it's not really using 100% black. It's only using black, but it's using the ink limits for that, which might be 60%, might be the maximum for any given material or something like that. There is another rendering intent, which is relative with black point compensation. What that does is it retains the total range, but it might not be quite as pleasing in photographs and things as perceptual. And it's also not quite as accurate as using the relative color metric. The black point compensation removes equal parts of cyan, magenta, and yellow and replaces them with just black. So this is also the methodology that is used in the ink savings feature that is available in RasterLink. But this will apply it to all of the images. And it improves your shadow gradations. Sorry about that. I just wanted to show you the completed print. So now the other thing that is available in RasterLink is the pure hue section. I will show you this once we go back to RasterLink, but I don't want to make everyone dizzy going from the PowerPoint presentation back to RasterLink and back and forth. So I will go through it and then I will show you where this is within RasterLink. Using pure hue will eliminate the color mixing. So if you select a pure hue, it's going to say you have a bunch of black type and your printer might be old and you're getting some overspray of cyan, magenta, and yellow in your black type, and it just doesn't look good. If you select the pure K, it will minimize or eliminate that the color correction that is being added into that black as part of the ICC profile. It could also be used to eliminate the color casts in your grays. So if you do pure K, what's going to happen is if your file is designed with just 100% black, it's going to come in. RasterLink is going to manage everything except that if it sees 100% black in your file, it is just going to use black. So this is the correct way to help with those color shifting grays versus using that neutral gray rendering intent. This only works for exact percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, or black. So it will not work if you design something with 20% magenta and 50% yellow. RasterLink is going to see that and expect that you want that color managed. If you design with 100% yellow, it's not going to add any of those weird magenta dots when it applies the ICC. But it has to have only pure colors in the file for the pure hues to work. RasterLink will still honor spot colors when you're using pure hues. So you still have your full color correction for the lab values for your spot colors. And it's going to continue to use the ICC profile for all of your mixed colors and your images. So really this is just to get rid of maybe some overspray and small black type, grays that are shifting to a hue that you don't like, or maybe some yellow that you're getting a little bit of magenta dots into. Let me, I'm gonna skip this section. I know we are running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to quit sharing that and go back to RasterLink. So again, when I'm in the quality tab, this is your pure hue area. So you would simply click that button, and it is not going to adjust the black in illustrations. So this is, illustrations means vector. So if you've designed something in Illustrator, this would take care of that. Down here we have image. So if you have a placed image in your file that also has black in it, you might also want to click pure black here. Otherwise, this black will not match that black, and this would get color corrected. You may or may not want to do this. Also keep in mind, if you do this, it might do something strange to some black that's in a photograph if it's not a mix of CMYK. So that would take care of the pure hue. And then here is the drop down for picking your rendering intent. Down here you have your input profiles. This is essentially the same thing that the Adobe Creative Suite is going to be using as far as RGB. For CMYK, we actually recommend, and we haven't done it yet on this version of RasterLink, for CMYK, we recommend using Crackle 2013 for wide format. That is just a nice big CMYK color gamut. The next thing I wanted to cover is the, I forget what this tab is called now that I'm standing here in front of it, color replacement. So here we have in this file a Pantone color. This is Mimaki's corporate Pantone color, if anyone ever was curious. But say we want that color to print as blue. We have a bunch of tabs up here, spot color, CMYK, and gradation. So I can actually take this Pantone color and replace it with 100% cyan and hit apply. It's not going to change here, but it is showing you here what output is going to change. So this was the input, and this is going to be what prints. Obviously, we don't want our logo to print blue, so I am going to set that back to 0. Hit apply. The other thing that you can do, instead of replacing with a solid ink color, is you can replace it with a lab value. I know there's a lot of people out there that are not necessarily familiar with lab color space. It is the color space that everything transfers into when you're actually converting from RGB to CMYK. Lab color space is basically all the colors that are available. It's not something that's printable or seeable. There's a lot of colors in the lab color space that are outside of the visible spectrum, but it is a three-dimensional space that's used to map colors into what can be printed. So when you have that red dot that's outside of your color gamut, it is actually using the lab value of that and to map into the lab values within your CMYK color space. Now in this file, we also have some black type. For some reason, we actually have 3 different levels of black type. So let's say we want to actually see which one this is. If I select this and hit the blinking indicator, it is actually now showing me on my file what that is. If I pick this one, it is going to show me that's black. Obviously, we are going to want to print all of these as the same black. So you could actually select this, hit replace, say 100% black, and you're good to go. The other thing that you can do is you could actually change this and say, no, I want that to be white ink if you have a specialty color in your machine. Or you can say, I want that to be clear ink. So you can color replace here into the specialty colors that you might have available, as well as just changing the CMYK color value. Let's go back to spot color for a moment and change this. I wanted something to come up and it doesn't want to come up. I was going to show you the color charts, but I can go in and show you that's importing and exporting. Yeah. So if you go under tools, you have color charts up here. Normally, I'm assuming it's doing it because I was already in here messing around, because when I started, you could see a little 9 little squares down here. So you can actually go in from here or from the tool menu, and you can actually create a color chart based off of, sorry, I'm finding my cursor so I can move this over to the right screen. So you can actually create a color chart of a mix between different colors. You can do this as CMYK, you can do this as RGB, or you can do this as lab. So for instance, I like to do the lab color chart. And of course, you have to put in a name. This would auto-populate if you had come in from this area over here. So here we have our base color. If I come in here and I just type in some random lab values, here you can see this chart. The center is always what you start with. So this is the value that I've typed in here. Then you can see here you have LAB directions. The way I remember what A and B are is B is for bananas and blueberries. I prefer bananas, so a positive Y is going to be yellow, and a negative, positive B is going to be yellow, and then negative B is going to be blue. And then for A, I think of apples. A positive apple is red, and a negative apple is green. So that's just a quick definition of what LAB is. L is actually lightness, so it goes from 100% white to 100% black. So if you think you got your color really dialed in, and you just want to see what it might look like a little bit lighter or darker, you can come over here and say, you know, I want 2 steps, and I want 2 pages. And now you can see down here, you actually have 5 different pages. And as you scroll through, you can see they get darker. If you also want to see what they might look like in the direction of adding blue, yellow, or red, green, you can create a color chart going in both directions. And believe it or not, even though it looks like a rainbow, because I put in some pretty extreme numbers here, it is all based off of this. So the middle of this is this color, and it is slightly going more yellow, more blue, more red, and more green probably down here at the bottom. So this is going to print when I say create job. Oh, I have to update. Create job. It wants to know what favorite I want. And now, oh, I picked the wrong printer. If I go out here to our UV-DTF printer that's also connected to this RasterLink, you'll see over here it is ripping, and it will populate down here as a printable file. So now I can print that, and under each one of these squares is a CMYK value as well. So you'd be able to then design with those colors. So I just wanted to cover that because I know a lot of people don't know that that is in here. Another thing that is very important that I recommend everyone listening on this call do is go to RasterLink and click on color collection. You will need to do this for each printer that you have in RasterLink. So technically I need to do this for all 4 of my printers. By default, RasterLink does not ship with the Pantone libraries enabled. What that means is if you design with a Pantone color, RasterLink is going to convert that to a generic CMYK based off of probably the same thing that would happen if you converted it to CMYK in Illustrator. Your profile can do much better than that. So it is important to come in here and turn on these libraries because that allows RasterLink to know if it sees a named spot color, so Pantone 186C. If this library is on, it knows don't use the generic CMYK value, use the appropriate lab value that Pantone has said that color should be. Sorry, I made this a little bit too big. So you can see over here, each Pantone color has a lab value associated with it. And if we go back to some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, that lab value is the basis for how it is mapped into CMYK. So if you just convert this Pantone color to CMYK in Illustrator, it is not going to be as accurate as if you let your RIP do it. And that is because virtually all wide format printers out there nowadays, even though they print with CMYK ink, that ink has been devised to increase the color gamut, increase the amount of color that can be utilized by mixing those. And printers today have a bigger color spectrum than the generic boot-coated 20 CMYK profile that Illustrator is going to dumb this color down to. So instead of losing that color data, I always recommend leaving it a spot color, making sure your libraries are engaged, and then letting RasterLink convert that color for you. I believe that is all I was going to cover. Melvin, do you recall anything else that I was supposed to be covering? I feel like I've been talking for an eternity here.
No worries. I have another portion. I believe that was everything we had.
Oh, I did. I was just looking through the chat real quick here. There was a question about variable data working with images. It certainly will work with images. So what you would need to do is in your variable data, would need to basically put in the image path, like the folder where it resides on the computer, in your database as one of these. And then it will recognize, you can see here in the dropdown, there's a picture dropdown. It will recognize that as a picture. This information changes slightly when it's a picture, but you could certainly, so say on a business card, you want, instead of the corporate logo, you want the guy's picture here. If you have all of these pictures in a folder and you just link it each of their names, then it would populate with a picture in here. As far as printing the second sheet, I'm assuming that is when like you're in the jig print and you have a second sheet loaded here. The machine is basically going to treat this as two separate jobs. So it is going to pause and let you refill in your jig to print the second sheet.
All right, Joel, thank you for that. I did see a couple of questions in the chat. So while he was going over his portion, I went and grabbed a couple of samples. That way I can kind of show you guys. We're not going to go in too much detail just because of time constraints. But I did see a question about 2.5D. Our GFX series, the GFX 200EX, either the 1213 or the 2513 can both print 2.5D as well as the GFX 600. For our roll-to-roll machines, we have the UCJV 330 as well as the the UJ 330H, which is the hybrid machine here, can also print 2.5D. And for those who aren't aware what 2.5D is, I actually have a couple of samples. These two samples are actually printed on the hybrid. The thing about 2.5D is the camera doesn't really do it justice. What you're seeing here is basically texture, but this was printed with like a matte finish. So to show what it looks like, I actually have a version of it that was printed on the JFX 600. And you can kind of see the texture in the image shows basically the raised texture of it. And the way you print something like that is basically you take a grayscale image under the property settings. Instead of it saying full color, you select 2.5D, and basically it takes the values of black that are in the image. So if you have 100% black somewhere, it builds up that texture, the maximum height. For this printer, I believe the maximum height is 0.5. But for our flatbed printers, you could really go all the way up to 2 inches if you so deem to. But in one print job, I believe the maximum height is 0.8 millimeters, but you can layer that with multiple 2.5D files to get as large as really as you want to. But this printer, I just wanted to show it also has the ability to do it. Again, it's kind of hard to show texture through camera. Maybe I can kind of show it. Let's see. Yeah, it's not going to show as well just because it's matte, but I can feel the crevices of the moon here. Each one has its own texture to it. Same thing with the dragon that we printed here. This one, I can feel the scales on there, and it's pretty relief. The flowers are relief, that sort of thing. Again, you can layer it with just a grayscale image, change the grayscale image to 2.5D, and put a color image on top of it. You have 2.5D. 2.5D takes definitely time to print, so just notice that like it would be more so for like your fine art pieces, that sort of thing. Another question I saw in the chat was about business cards. So to start off with, I do have a jig here. This jig is what we utilize for our flatbed jig, our GFX series, and we actually utilize it for business cards. Someone mentioned, can you print business cards on here? Technically, you can. This jig, like I said, is for our flatbed, so it's probably a little bit more durable and a little bit heavier than probably you need for something like this. But for the purposes of can you print to jigs, yes, you can. These business cards, we're utilizing them for Braille. This machine can't necessarily do the Braille application, but for the instances of just showing what jigs look like, this is what a jig looks like. You can mill out jigs. So for instance, this is probably milled out of some type of hard plastic. And basically they mill out the shape of the business card. And with the business card, you can kind of just place them in place. So we were printing on them on the front as well as on the back of them. So you can kind of see both sides. The other way you can print to jig. So in the beginning, I was mentioning when you print, the two prints that actually came off of the printer. Let's see if I can show you. You can see that basically they have a clear gloss finish on them. And I mentioned that they're going to have like the 5 millimeter border all the way around the edge. So say, for instance, I do want to print edge to edge like that. Well, the way you would do that is you would have a jig. And so in this case, I actually have a full image print. And what I did was basically take a aluminum, what am I looking for? Aluminum ACM milled out piece, and basically use that as the frame or the jig for printing edge to edge. And the benefit of it, you can see like on the back side when we were doing like our testing, you can see that you were getting a full print on the print. And what that allows you to do is, again, there's something to catch that excess that's going on the outside of the print instead of going onto the belt. Again, the key thing for the hybrid is we do not want to print on the belt. So this is what a jig would look like. And I can actually show that process through the through RasterLink. So in RasterLink, on the hybrid, we actually have, so earlier he was showing you the business cards. We actually have the jig that I was, let me actually go to the actual file. What's this one? Oh, no, it's this one. So if I go to jig print, again, you'll have to activate jig print by just making sure you're clicking that checkbox. And from jig print, you're able to print to, like I said, different jigs. I actually have a jig for the one that I printed, which was the card here. And what we have here is basically, you'll notice that there's like white area on the outside. What we did is the actual print is 12 by 18. So the pre-cut piece that we did in the middle is an 18 by 12 inch print. Under jig definition right here, this is where you're going to control like your actual jig dimensions. So I have my position here. I want to make sure it's printing to 0, 0. That way, when it reads the material, it's printing right to the front right corner. The skew, if you had your print angled, you can change that on here as well. You have your print area here, which it's a hybrid, so the print area can be really large. The size, this is the size of the file. The reason why we have this 0.1, we want to make sure that the middle part is a little bit bigger than the piece that we're putting in there. If you have a 12 by 18 piece and you also cut out a 12 by 18 hole, it's going to be really tight and it's going to be hard to, put it into the middle of the jig. So we just made it just a tad bit bigger. That way it's easier to remove and insert the rigid pieces into the middle of the jig. I only have one up, but say I was using the business card jig, I could have multiple up, but in this case, I only have one. And then the interval piece, that's going to be if you have multiple images up or multiple pieces in your jig. Again, we only have one here, so the interval isn't going to really play that much of effect. And the first position, so you're going to kind of notice that when I held it up, there was about a 2-inch border. So that's why the first position, we wanted to make sure it's 2 inches because it's going to be 2 inches from the beginning of the jig. You can control the layout as well. So say I wanted to nest it towards the top of the image, just like how I was showing the hybrid for the rigid media placement. This will be how your image is going to nest within the printable area. So generally speaking, you want it in the middle, but again, you can nest it towards the top, bottom, left, right, wherever you want it to. And then from here, when I go to layout, you'll see that I can also do my scaling as well. So if I wanted to say print this half the size, I would change this to 50%. And now I am able to, sorry about that. And now I am able to print it at this size. And again, you can scale it to whatever size you want. You can do jig fit, you can do actual size, whichever one is best for you. If you need to rotate it, you can also do rotations as well. And then if we had copies, if I had multiple images up, which in this case, this might be too big to have multiple. Yeah, it's a little bit too big to have multiple. But if I have multiple images up, I'd be able to increase the copies and it would move to the other one as well. So that's jig definite or jig print. Again, the best way to utilize that for the hybrid is going to be if you want to do like a full flood image on your print. It's really key for if you want, full edge-to-edge printing. It's the best way to utilize that, just having the negative piece. You could make this out of any material you want. If you want to use the jig for long term, we made ours out of ACM, so that way we could reuse this as many times as we need to. But if you wanted a temporary one, you could make it out of foam. You could even do one out of paper if you so choose to, and just have it towards the bottom of it. But the more durable the material, like the one I made that was out of the hard plastic, the more use you'll get out of the jig. And any CNC router can utilize that, or there are professional companies as well that also create jigs for our printers. For our flatbeds, we have PDFs that have the table placement, and there's also screw holes into the table. So with that placement, they can create a jig that has screw holes so it screws in the exact same place every time. That way you're not worrying about alignment or the placement of your jig. You always know it goes in the same place every time whenever you're printing. The other thing we have is, like I mentioned, the 2.5D, really big feature for this printer. It allows you to do the fine art pieces as well as get you that really good defined texture. If you want extreme texture, I would definitely recommend transferring over to the flatbeds, so the JFX series, or technically the UJF 7151 also has the ability to print 2.5D, which is like our higher end tabletop flatbed printer. But that series is a different series in comparison to the JFX, but they're both flatbed printers. I believe that was, just want to double check we're going on went over everything we had planned for today. Yes, so I will actually leave the last 30 minutes if anyone has any questions. I know we were asked, oh, I'm sorry. There was actually a good question in the chat, and we actually have Lewis Jones here, who's actually going to go over the media change.
Work change.
I'm sorry. I'm going to let him talk about it.
Yes, I was monitoring the chat during this discussion, and there was some questions about multiple prints on this machine. So I'm going to go over one of the things that makes that a little bit easier to do, which is the work change function. If we can go over to the panel. Bear with me for 1 second. Yes, here we go. If we go over to the panel, and if you have one of your profiles selected or a preset selected, go into menu, media setting, and go to detail setting. Got it on the first try. This function right here, work change, right now it's off. When this feature is off, that means if you have a 4x8 print board and you print a 12x12 image or something that's not going to use up whatever the full length of the board is, when it's done printing, it will stop and it will let you print more to that board. Of course, you have more space, so you can keep on printing. When you have this feature on, the second that a print is done, it will trigger you to go back to this screen. And if we go into execute media, this is what your panel will look like when your printer is finished printing when you have work change on. It will say start media set. That means it's ready to load a new media the second the print is done. It will ask that regardless of if your print is, if you've used up your whole board. Print's done, it wants you to reload new media. The benefit of that is if you have that on and you go into your RasterLink software and print and select multiple copies. If you go over to RasterLink and go into the execute tab for me. Yes. If you're going into the execution tab and you click 5 copies and you have work change on, the second one print is done, it will prompt you to load in the next board and it will print the next one. It'll do that 5 times until it's done with copies. So that's something that'll save you a little bit of time when you're printing the same image over and over again. But right now, that is the workflow for if you're printing multiple boards. You print, you wait for your print to finish, and then once it's done, release the bar down, load a new board in the back, and repeat the process. So just wanted to answer that question. But now, like Melvin said, we are in the Q&A portion. So if you have any other questions about what we just explained or any of the other topics that we covered, please put them in the chat and we will do our best to cover them now.
Thank you, Lewis. I really appreciate that. We were kind of going through the chat, just kind of making sure we're getting all the answers in here. It looks like a lot of my team members, thank you for assisting everybody. Answered a lot of these questions, so I definitely appreciate that. I did notice we had a question about the 2.5D disappeared on the 6042. Unfortunately, the 3042 and the 6042 do not have the option to print 2.5D. So that is just the nature of the printers. The only one UJF series that is available for that is going to be the UJF 7151 plus 2 and the plus 2E. Those are the two models that are going to be available for 2.5D. Just bear with me while I read some of these questions. Again, if anyone has any questions, now would be the time. I believe
there was one question regarding whether the video would be available, and I would definitely say it will be available. And I would also like to make sure everyone knows we have a huge presence on YouTube. All of the videos such as this are usually put up on YouTube, as well as tutorial videos for just about everything that you can think of under the sun. So certainly if you have any questions, make sure that you check out the YouTube channel for possible videos.
I do want to say, I see another question in the chat from Andrew about eliminating a lot of the other checks that pop up when you're reloading media. Yes, the work change does eliminate, I think, 2 of the steps when you're reloading media. It automatically opens up that option to load in media. You still have to go through the same process, but you can say skip the thickness check and you can skip the width. And it still will read the front edge and the right edge. It still needs to do that so it knows where to start and it's actually accurate on the print. Outside of that, you can skip those other functions and it'll just go ahead and start printing.
awesome. Thank you.
Along with that work change option, sorry if Lewis mentioned this too, if you turn that off, that will allow you to print smaller objects on a larger sheet without having to reload every time. So say you have a 4x8 sheet loaded and you want to print a 5x10, but leave the sheet loaded because you have another job coming down. You can certainly do that, and then it'll just keep printing until you're out of space on the sheet. So if you turn the work change off, it allows you to continue printing on the sheet instead of reloading every time.
Thank you. Thank you. I do want to mention for everyone who is here, again, thank you for coming to our virtual demo. We generally try to have these a couple throughout the year, just in case people aren't able to make it to our demo facilities. We do have 5 demo facilities out across the United States and Canada. We have our Los Angeles office out of Gardena, California. We have Rockaway, New Jersey. We have our beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, well, a little bit north of Atlanta, Georgia, right out of Flowery Branch. We have our Dallas, Texas office, and we also have our Toronto office out of Canada. So if you have any of those locations closer to you, we do offer demonstrations as well as samples. If you are looking to get, say, material printed to test out, myself as well as the rest of the print solution specialists do facilitate those demonstrations as well as samples. I should probably stand in the camera while I talk. But yes, we do also offer that as well. So I know myself as well as Joe, we do a lot of those demonstrations here. And we do also now offer the virtual demonstrations as well. So the same camera system that we have here, we have a redundancy one out of Atlanta, or I'm sorry, we're in Atlanta. We have a redundancy one out of LA. So that way we can cover both coasts of the US.
And the other thing that I want to mention too regarding the demo centers is we simply can't cover everything in RasterLink during a virtual webinar like this, but we do offer full day in-person RasterLink training free of charge. You just have to pay for room and board to get to one of our 5 demo centers. So each branch does it at least once a year. So there's something going on every quarter plus. And those are much more in-depth and hands-on. And because they are in the demo rooms, we also try to provide an opportunity to do some hands-on troubleshooting as well. So those are all on our events page at mimakiusa.com. So go ahead and look those up if you're interested in coming in for a more in-depth RasterLink class.
Absolutely, and I'll actually drop the link in chat. So if anyone's interested in seeing our current schedule, I'll drop that in the chat for you. I know it's probably a little late in the day if you're in the East Coast. Hope everybody has their AC. It's been very hot this week.
And have a happy birthday to America.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, America. Well, we'll give it a couple of minutes. If nobody has any further questions, by like 6 o'clock, we'll probably end it here. Again, thank you everybody for coming. I'm just looking for the events page, and then I will drop that in the chat for you guys. Oh, yes, I see we have one more print shows or newer models. So Mario, I will say that we can't really talk about like anything we'll be releasing, but I will say that definitely if you see us at any of trade shows, definitely come by our booth. I know the next major trade show that we have coming up is going to be Printing United out of Vegas. Yes, it is Vegas, just confirming that. So definitely check out our booth. I wish I had our booth number readily available for you, but I could probably find that if you give me a second. But definitely come check out our booth and see what we have to offer. We usually have Printing United and I believe ISA are our 2 largest trade shows that we definitely attend. I see we had a comment about, so it looks like said new foil sticky business. Looks like you have the RasterLink 6 Plus. So just so you know, if you do have RasterLink 6 Plus currently, you can get a free upgrade to RasterLink 7. If you just, there is a link on our website, but if you call our call center, they'll actually walk you through the full process and provide you with your new serial code for RasterLink 7. And the benefit of that is you'll be able to keep your RasterLink 6 Plus code as well as the RasterLink 7. So you can have both basically. So I would definitely recommend upgrading. I can't guarantee that'll always be available. So definitely get that sooner rather than later.
I'm also pasting a link to a survey in the chat. So if you could be so kind as to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate any feedback you might have.
Sorry, I feel like our camera system that we're working on is doing so much that the website just isn't cooperating with me. Yes, that is correct. If you are utilizing the Ethernet connection function, it's definitely beneficial to utilize Cat7. That is going to be the newest Ethernet cable available. Right, there is an 8 right now, right? Yeah, so 7. I am also dropping in our events page in the chat. This will give you access to all of our webinars, our trainings, and then our in-person trainings. We do also offer trainings in Spanish as well. So if anyone out there is a Spanish speaker and prefers Spanish, we do also do virtual trainings on RasterLink. We actually just did one on the 14th, so 2 weeks ago, which was fully in Spanish. So we do offer that as well. I believe, so today's July 2nd. I will actually share the screen so you guys can see. The next training that we have will be, is actually going to be the Spanish one, which is going to be on the 14th. I thought it would already pass, but July just started. So next one will be on July 14th, which will be a virtual RasterLink training. Very similar to what we had today, just basically in Spanish. And then our next in-person one will be out of the Toronto office on July 23rd. So I know we had someone in the chat said they're out of Toronto. The next in-person one is going to be on the 23rd. We do also have Los Angeles coming up on August 6th. And New Jersey will have theirs on August 27th. And then we have a bunch of our trade show and dealer events on this page as well. So definitely lock in that page and just keep connected with what shows we'll be at and what different webinars and events we'll be hosting as well. I believe probably towards the end of July, we'll fulfill our next half of events as far as all the different webinars that we'll have, as well as all the different Mimaki RasterLink trainings we'll have. How can I best dispose of waste inks? So waste inks, the best way to dispose of waste inks is going to be to utilize a waste ink disposal company. We have multiple 55-gallon drums in the back. Your waste ink, for anyone who doesn't know, is going to be underneath the carriage, right here on the right. I'm not going to pull it out because this machine is currently doing cleaning, and that would be bad, but it's basically a jug right there on the bottom right. You can take the ink and just pour it into the drain, or not into the drain, into the container, and have a company dispose of it. With UV inks, we also have textile machines, so we have water-based inks as well as UV inks, and then the eco solvents as well. All of those should be disposed properly. What will the training in Toronto include? So the training in Toronto will be very similar to the one that I did in Atlanta probably about a month ago. It'll be the webinar, or I'm sorry, not the webinar. The PowerPoint that Joel was showing you guys was a snippet of basically what that full class is like. The full class is about 7 hours or 6 hours, depending on where it's at. And it's a full day where you go through each individual tab, how all those different functions work. I kind of briefly went over them to just kind of show you guys what they do and everything. But in the class, you're able to get hands-on experience. We're all connected through RasterLink. We have a file that we share so that everyone can kind of work with the file together. If you have any questions, we go over that as well. And then usually like the second half is more of a hands-on so that we come out to our demo facility. Maybe I can kind of give you a full shot, but our demo facility is pretty large. Where are we at? Right here. Our demo facility is really large, so I'll kind of just zoom out so you can kind of get a full view of how many machines I kind of have in here. So it's a pretty large facility. We're only just at like one of the printers, but there's probably at least about 30 machines in this facility, and myself and Joel and the other print solution specialists were trained on all of them, so we demonstrate whatever machine people want to see that we currently have available here. And then out of Toronto, they'll do something very similar. They probably just go over RasterLink, all the different features. We all work off of the same PowerPoint. And then they'll probably do like a print and cut. So they'll probably show one of the print and cut machines that they have and basically like sending files to it. If you have any personal questions you have, that's usually the time to bring that in. Like say there was like a job you had and you couldn't really figure out how to make the printer do what you wanted it to do. That would be the time to bring those questions into the print solution specialists. That way they can give you their feedback on it. We utilize a lot of different samples, a lot of things I never even thought people wanted to print to. Those are the things that we kind of test. And so we have a lot of experience dealing with issues like that. Let's see what else we have. All right, looks like we got the other people answering the questions for me. So just take a look out of what they're typing up really quickly. I think, there we go. Got multiple CJB 150s that I'm building a replacement. Well, do I have the printer for you? So, so we actually have our, I know you had the CJB 150, which is a one print head model. We actually have our newly CJB 200, which is a one print head model as well, but it's based off of our EcoSolvent 330 series. And the benefit of that is a model that has kind of been tried and true at this point. We released that. It has two print heads in the 330 series. And what we did was, for people who didn't need the production speed of a 1,100 square feet an hour printer, we basically reduced it down to one print head and made it more affordable for people who don't need that speed. So you're getting the same print quality as the higher end model with a lower cost. And that's what the CJB 200 is. So based off of your 150, I would definitely recommend taking a look at the CJB 200. It comes in two different sizes, the 54 inch and the 64 inch, so which would be the 130 and the 160 respectively. So definitely whoever you purchase the 150s from, or if you're looking for a new dealer, definitely reach out to us via our website and contact us, letting us know that you're interested in this model. We can connect you either with a dealer or with our salespeople that will get you in contact with a dealer.
He has multiple.
Oh, yes. And then, sorry, Joe was just telling me, you also have the, if you do have multiple 150s, you could probably just replace all of those with the 130 just based off of the print speed alone, honestly. But if you do want redundancy, I would definitely recommend the CJB 200. If you are looking for more speed or production, the 330 series also comes in a print and cut. So the CJB 330, which also comes in the 54 and 64 inch as well. So depending on if you want more of the affordable or more of the production side, we have both options. And those printers are right there, the black ones. That's it right there. And then the other one's behind it. But we do have both of those printers. Let's see. Oh, that's good. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Definitely tune in. Stay locked into our website. And then if everyone can, please take a look at that survey that Joel linked in the chat. And just let us know how we're doing. If you have any questions or recommendations on things that you want to see in these webinars, it gives us an idea of how to schedule them a little bit better. Other than that, thank you for everybody and have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July.